So first up, we have Alice Mazzilli, who is an artist specialised in writing and professional calligrapher, and she's going to speak to us about writing.
Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to talk to all of you about writing and my perspective. Writing is something that I probably, like you, are dedicated my life to. And I see it as a ever-evolving entity. And also my perspective on writing, it's always changing and evolving. And it's very much shaped by my research, practice, and the exchange of ideas. And I call this perspective Interowriting. So it's really the child of my journey about the many facets of writing, which includes paintings, graffiti, calligraphy, both formal and more informal, performance, poetry, and philosophy. But the question that's been asked so much during the conference is, what is writing? Well, I do not have a straightforward answer to this, because I don't think there's like just one answer. In fact, what I can prove to you today, though, is that no handwriting is inherently bad. And I can prove it to you today in this half an hour. This I can do. So I have an example, which is doctor writing, which is this one here in the center. So doctors claim that they like born with like a illegibility in their handwriting. Well, I simply think that they're always in a rush and they don't see writing as something worth spending the time on. That's why they have a bad handwriting. And I hope you all have your copies, because I'm about to take you to a philosophical roller coaster. So let's think about writing in a way that we might not usually consider. Writing isn't just an act of expression or a tool. It's in fact more like an event, a rhythm, an imprint left behind that sparks new events. It's not just about putting ideas on paper or on a surface. It's about making those ideas come alive over and over again in always different ways. So there's a difference in the repetition of writing. In fact, like even medieval scribes or like scribes from the past, even though they were trained exactly the same way by the same people, they achieved different results. For example, here I have some examples of 16th century italic masters, and they all have slightly different variation of the letter, something simple like a triangle shape, like the letter A or the letter M. So I found these little details like really, really fascinating. And we are, in the end, narrative creatures, narrative beings. And our bodies are wired to rely on narratives to function. In fact, we build the sense of self, our sense of self, through images, experiences, and language. In our Western society, we usually link writing directly to language because of phonetic alphabet. But language is not something that's static. As you can see here as well, like definition letters evolve into many different alphabets. So language is really like something that is always in motion. It's a flow of contradiction and paradoxes. And in fact, the first paradox is that language, which is a set of symbols, both limits and enables human perception, shaping how we think, act, and even perceive reality. in fact, both language and writing are a set of arbitrary symbols with no absolute meaning and interpretation. Each one of us has an individual interpretation of those symbols. And the way we interact with these symbols, it's called subjectivity. So here is where it gets interesting for me. It's the word interaction. So interaction presumes that there is a gap in between us and the language and those symbols. I consider language as those symbols. So what is that gap in between us and the symbol? And I see that gap as writing, which is a bridge between the human and the language. Language seen as this set of symbols that we interact with. So now we have those three entities. And what I'm proposing is to see all of these subjects as autonomous structures with their own dynamics. So we have those three entities, and I would like to suggest something now, which is that all of three of those entities and autonomous structures are in fact bodies. They're dynamic, evolving bodies. So if we start to see language and writing as something outside of ourselves, separate entities we interact with, we open a whole new way of experiencing reality. So in fact, we're not just minds in bodies. We are beings constantly interacting with a world full of other bodies, which by bodies, I mean writing, language, society, they're all separate entities and bodies. And by embracing this idea, we challenge our beliefs that our identity is only shaped by language. And this takes me back to my first initial point that no handwriting is inherently bad. Because if writing is a body, then we have to treat it as our own body as well, which means exercising it and feeding it well, or not, like we do our body. So you see that to do this, you need something like discipline. Anyway, to truly understand what writing is today, we must also examine it from an archaeological point of view, which in this regard, this conference obviously plays a crucial role. Well, no doubt that writing is the most sophisticated means we have for time traveling, as it facilitates flexible conception of space and time. And writing is now undergoing one of these most significant transformations since the invention of the printing press. In fact, for the first time in the history of the Western phonetic alphabet, arbitrary symbols that traditionally used to correspond with spoken language are being employed differently. Today, in fact, humanity is writing more than ever thanks to technological innovation such as computer, tablets, and smartphones. These tools, in fact, create a new network of written interaction based on informal language. So we write and we expect an immediate response, mirroring conversation. Receive instant feedback, which encourages a progressive informality both in writing and in language. So formal writing is dwindling, while informal writing evolves rapidly. And speed is the measurement of progress. And we can see this both in something like the Industrial Revolution, obviously, but we can see it in writing as well. It's always like a need for speed. Also, the rise of pictographic symbols, such as the emojis, have become so essential for the way we write today. That kind of makes you wonder that we're going towards a universal language that's going to have a wink face at the end of every sentence. Hopefully not. Another subject, which I'm glad that Nicholas introduced a little bit yesterday, is graffiti. So we found out a little bit about the history of like tagging. This is like more tagging and graffiti. So I think modern graffiti detached the Western alphabet from its traditional application, using it to represent concepts instead of sounds. And I'm talking here about the Western and the Latin alphabet. And I believe graffiti plays a very important role in the evolution of handwriting, as I personally consider it as the new form of cursive in our society. And I have some examples here from graffiti writers which use the letter form in a very cursive way, I see, because they use lots of ligatures, mixing the letters together. So there's some examples that I see them, the artists using it in this form. Well, a similar shift is also though occurring digitally, where coding uses alphabetic symbols to construct images. In fact, phonetic writing is the code we use to interact with machines. And we increasingly writing for machines. So despite the many changes we've seen over time, I think writing still remains a crucial part of the human experience, something that we must both preserve and expand. Writing in all of its forms has some similarity, which is movement and rhythm, which is something that's across all the writing systems that we see. And it's much like a living entity. That's how I see it. And each one of us has developed a unique and personal rhythm based on our life experiences, which is reflected on our handwriting, which is very much like a fingerprint. Obviously, if you exercise it and treat it as a body. Another interesting thing that I read is that in ancient China, they used to see writing and handwriting as the only way of understanding like someone's true personality. And I found that extremely insightful. Personally, writing has been an essential part of my life, as I see it as a plane between me and the rest of the world. I was a very shy child, like extremely shy. That it's like a miracle that I'm here talking to you. Really. So if I can improve that, you can all improve your handwriting. In fact, I used to write letters to my mom to communicate and express myself as an expert from it, although we were living in the same house. Another factor that influenced me, it was growing up in the 90s as a teenager. Slowly I saw the walls of my city and every other city I visited getting filled with graffiti. That's one of my mega sketches that I found. And there I found a connection, as that was also writing, so I felt straight away a connection to it. But my experiences with writing spans diaries, graffiti, graphic design, professional calligraphy, and not so professional, not so formal, sign painting, painting, poetry, research into the history of writing, and philosophy. And all these seemingly different disciplines really shaped my vision of what writing is and my perspective. And I asked myself this question: what is the writing of our time? So I refer to this exploration, is an exploration, I want to underline, as Interowriting. So Interowriting explores the contemporary transformation and etymology of writing. It is an action, an event that involves the discipline of writing and its interaction with space, time, rhythm, environment, and interoception. So interoception is a crucial part of my research, as it's also where Interowriting is inspired by. Intero means whole, complete, but also means something coming from inside. So interoception is our ability to perceive internal bodily states. And it has been a focal point in neuroscience research in recent years. It is the perception that helps us answer the question, how do you feel? The ability to be aware of internal sensation in the body, including heart rate, breathing, hunger, temperature, pain, as well as emotions. In fact, interowriting is a conscious form of writing, one that takes into account the fact that emotions are an integral part of the cognitive system. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio, in his book, describes certain research that he's been going through, and he says, when emotion is completely excluded from the reasoning process, as seen as in certain neurological condition, which is basically damage to the front lobe of the brain, reason proves to be even more flawed than when emotion influences our decision. And since emotions are inextricably linked to our thought process, they are also integral to writing. To possess a mind, in fact, is to generate neural representation that become images, manipulated through the thinking that makes us perceive reality as a simultaneous whole, which shouldn't be just instead a series of images that we process, and ultimately influence our behavior, helping to predict, plan, and make decisions. So what interowriting seeks to do is to enhance interoceptive awareness through the rhythm of writing and propose an alternative framework to traditional Western concepts of writing, expanding its definition. Interowriting also consider our primary senses, plus the vestibular and the proprioception. The vestibular system helps us detect balance and motion, while proprioception provides feedbacks on our body spatial positioning, aiding coordination and awareness. So once we connect all of these factors, we can truly express who we are beyond language through the body of writing. And now we have no excuses to claim to have a bad handwriting. So I think I proved my points. Interowriting is writing that is aware of itself to be able to register its own state. So it's a body, therefore it can transform, it can suffer. For example, in this painting, exploring the emotion of pain. And by exploring it, I am creating another body, which takes the shape here, for example, a canvas, which will then interact with other bodies. And each body will have a certain connection with this body. Another way they have been illustrating in interowriting, it's through some performances. One, it's calligraphy. which is a bit strange to show with pictures, but I'll show some picture of it. Jammigraphy comes from jamming and calligraphy. So it's an immersive experience based on improvisation, freestyle, which aims to develop writing both from rhythm and music exclusively, not from spoken language. It takes the shape of a performance as well as a workshop, and it involves a musician, one or more musicians, and writers, which could be me, could be an audience being also participants. And it facilitates a spontaneous exploration of the primitive instincts that moves the acts of writing. So this is some work that is improvised during the jammigraphies. Another performance that I've been exploring is called the walking wall. So the walking wall, I become a wall. And I dress in white and ask people, random people on the streets, to write a word on me. Challenging conventional notions both of walls and of writing. These experiments bring words from their context and empowers participants to connect with their handwriting. And it has been received really well. In fact, people is very excited to actually write words on me. I would think like, I would get like really bad response, but it's been quite good. And my goal with this performance is to be able to take it worldwide, to document the state of handwriting in different countries, and create a collection of garments that represent people's connection with writing. So in addition to these performances, I create poems, paintings, and calligraphy, in which I investigate the concept of interowriting, which I see as a plane free from hierarchy or judgment. The words, in fact, are connected to free play, intending really to transform rather than convince someone of the meaning. They want to sort of like illustrate the tension in between words and silence and place in space. And also to stimulate visual awareness both in myself and in the reader. And represents the dynamic essence of the body of writing. So Interowriting, it's really a visual experience. Visual in the sense that it's using the images we create in our thoughts. Images stimulated by our senses and our interoception. So interowriting is really a dialogue, a written dialogue. That's how I see it. Which is not just about my work, but it's my aim with it. It's for it to become something that everyone can explore and practice. Well, to conclude, I think it's time to see writing as more than just a tool for communication. Writing is a transformative practice that reshapes our understanding of ourselves and of the world. Through interowriting, we can explore deeper rhythms and sensation, connecting mind, bodies, and our environment. So by embracing both formal and intuitive writing forms, we can create new opportunities for expression and exploration. This broader perspective on writing can enrich education, helping both adults and children to discover their voices and deepen their understanding of the human experience, fostering empathy, critical thinking, and creativity. So I would love to continue this conversation with each one of you, as each one of you represents a unique part of the body of writing. And together, I think we can shape and evolve in new and exciting ways. Thank you.